Hi there, I'm Chantal Westerman, and I'd like to welcome you to our brand new Concierge Q Studios here in Sun Valley, Idaho. We're already calling them the Q Studios because it's so hip to say that. We are covering the 2013 Sun Valley Wellness Festival, and it's sponsored by our great friend, Barry Peterson, and all the folks at Barry Peterson Jewelry. You know, I cover a lot of events all over the place, but I have to say truly that my favorite is the Wellness Festival, because basically what it is a gathering of the best and the brightest in the world of mind, body, spirit. But it's more than that. It's also all about healing. It's healing of the heart, healing of the physical body, and it's a way to find tools that send you out into the world, which at best today is very shaky. My first guest is an absolute joy to talk to. His name is Eric Saperston, and Eric, welcome so much. Thank you for taking time to come talk to us at the Q, because I've watched you in the halls for the Wellness Festival, and literally everybody wants a piece of you. And I think it's because you have a light about you that people want. So I wonder if you are aware yourself of the gift you have to light people up.
Wow, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Am I aware of it? I think I just love people, and I've just been a person who's been curious my whole life, and I find life fascinating. And I think just having those three things drive my being, I guess, may generate a light. I don't see my own light, but I appreciate people that say hi.
Well, one day I think you will see your own light, and then you'll be able to give it away in an even greater way, because you're sort of in the beginning of your journey, and I say that only because you're so young. So let's unpack who you are a little bit for our audience who doesn't know you, to understand you a little bit better. First of all, you were a deadhead. Maybe you still are a deadhead. You still follow, of course.
Deadhead, always a deadhead.
Of course, once a deadhead. I should have known that. You followed the Grateful Dead for a long time. And on that journey, on that path of following the Grateful Dead, you came to a decision in your life to do something. And that decision not only changed your path into a journey that you were taking, a spiritual journey, but also a career. Tell us what that decision was.
Well, for me, I was graduating from college, and I decided I was going to take a year off and follow the Grateful Dead and work a ski season in Aspen. And then my mentor in college, who had been watching my career for the 4 years that I was there, said, "Hey, it's your graduation. What are you going to do when you graduate?" And I told him my plans, and he thought that I could do something a little more meaningful. And so on a dare from him, I decided that when I wasn't following the Grateful Dead and working a ski season, I'd call up some of the most powerful people in the world and take them out for a cup of coffee. And so I took 3 of my friends, and we jumped into a Volkswagen bus, and how we funded our trip is we sold sexy kind grilled cheese sandwiches made with love for $1 off our Coleman camping stove, and we cold called some of the most powerful people in the world and said, "Can we take you out for a cup of coffee and find out the values you live by and the struggles you've endured, and what advice and counsel you could give to others to better prepare themselves for the road ahead?"
Did you ask Jerry Garcia before he passed what his advice was, by the way?
I did. I was really fortunate. I had a chance to meet Jerry Garcia, and I was brought back. I met Alex Cooley, who was a big concert promoter in the South.
Yeah.
Who's amazing, and offered me just wonderful pearls of wisdom, like, remember it takes 10 to 15 years to become an overnight success, and to make decisions that could be, based on a long-term view. And he was just an awesome mentor and a great guide, and I let him know what my, obviously I was a Biggie Deadhead, and he said, "Well, they're coming to town," and I was, wow, this is really exciting. And he brought me backstage, and I got a chance to meet Dennis McNally, the band's publicist, and that led to a brief meeting with Jerry Garcia. And when I met Jerry, it was, they were on tour, and he said, "Are you coming to California? I don't have much time to talk to you while I'm on the road." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, if you come to California, why don't you come and you can come visit me?" And I was so excited at the thought that I get to go to Jerry Garcia's home and hang out with him, as I've been doing with many of the guests that I've been interviewing. Then 5 weeks later, Jerry passed away, and I went to a candlelight vigil in his honor. And I remember seeing just multiple generations dancing and celebrating his life. And I went over and sat beneath a tree, and I was writing in my journal, thinking about all these people who he had impacted so many people's lives, and how many of these people actually got a chance to meet him. And I got a chance to meet him, and I was kind of reflecting about that. And then I wrote in my journal that night that I wish that we can all live such rich and rewarding lives so that when it's time to be dead, all we can do is be grateful.
Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful thought. I will carry that with me for a long, long time. Were people hesitant when you would call? Were people surprised? Were people, who is this kid? Or were you surprised at their openness?
I think both. I think there is one of the things that I think prevents people from living extraordinary lives is that nobody wants to appear foolish. And I think if you want to live a courageous life, then I think you need to be able to have the courage to speak your possibility into the world, even if you're going to be judged and ostracized and misunderstood. And I think when I was out there selling my grilled cheese sandwiches and telling people that I was going to go meet some of the most powerful people in the world, people really did think I was full of it and thought I was, they didn't believe that I could do that or anybody would say yes. And I think there's that space that you have to stand in the uncomfortable silence and keep speaking your possibility into the world. And then eventually somebody would say yes. And when they did say yes, it was really magical. My first person who said yes was Bernie Marcus, the founder of Home Depot, which I would have never thought that was a person that I would meet. But I ended up meeting him, and then he ended up turning me on to the chairman of UPS and the president of Coke. And before I knew it, I was being bounced around to meeting some of the most extraordinary people. And I think you get access to some people. There were a lot of people that I tried to get access to that said no. I think it's important when you do speak your possibility to be really clear about what you want. The world tends to respond really well if you're really clear about your request. I used to call up people and say, hey, my name's Eric and I'd like to take you out for a cup of coffee. I want to find out the values you live by, the struggles you've endured, and what advice and counsel you could give to me and my generation to better prepare ourselves for the road ahead. How I'm funding my trip is by selling these sexy kind grilled cheese sandwiches made with love for $1 off my Coleman stove. I can afford to treat you to a cup of coffee, but I gotta be honest, if you order anything else in the menu, you're on your own. And if they laughed or chuckled, I felt like I was that much closer to being able to meet with them.
I would have said yes had you asked me. If I had any wisdom to impart, I would have said yes.
After this, we're going to go get a cup of coffee.
We will indeed. We will indeed. I think that there are a lot of people watching this broadcast who do have dreams and aspirations and intentions and who are afraid. And you said something that really resonated with me. You said sometimes you have to stand in that uncomfortable silence and speak your truth. Talk to me a little bit about how difficult that is and why those people with those visions watching this should do that.
Well, I think that the Betty Sue Flowers, who's one of my advisors, who is the editor of Power and Myth, that Joseph Campbell, who was famous for coining the phrase, follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss.
One of the things that she taught me early on in my journey was that success, if you follow your bliss and you do something that no one has done before, success is something that's measurable. We were talking about baseball earlier. If you know that we measure baseball, so if you hit this many home runs this year and then you hit that many more home runs next year, we can determine that you've been that much more successful because we measure success. But if you go down a path that nobody has gone down and it's something that's drawing you from deep within your own soul, then it's not measurable by design because there's nothing to compare it to. So one of the things that Betty Sue Flowers had taught me was that if you follow your bliss, you can't be successful unless retroactively. That means that you have to be willing to stand in that uncomfortable silence, that uncomfortable judgment, and keep following your pursuit. And if you understand the hero's journey, only when you come full circle and you bring the elixir back to the community, when you bring the goods of what you went out to do, then they can understand it. So for example, when I was out traveling and calling up people and taking out for coffee, I had just met President Jimmy Carter. It took me 3 months of cold calling him every day. I was super nervous, super excited. I got a chance to meet the president, one of the former presidents of the United States. He and I swapped ties during our interview. I mean, it was incredible. I ended up calling home to my dad and said, Mom and Dad, I just met President Jimmy Carter. You won't believe it. Mom was very excited. My dad said, well, has anybody written you a check yet? And I think that there's people that care about you, your family, friends. If you go down this path that nobody has gone down before and they can't measure it, even the people who love you the most will try to stop you, try to get you back into more of a conservative way of being so that they can measure it and understand. And so for me, I had to, for many years, live in this place of a deep inner knowing, even though the world didn't get it. Then when my journey became, we got a development deal with Disney, when my movie was playing in theaters across the country, and when I'm on the Today Show, all of a sudden people are looking at me going, oh my God, there's Eric on the Today Show and his movie's selling out in theaters.
Right.
Like, I believed in that guy all the time.
Exactly. And while we're on the subject, I want to point out that this is the movie Eric is talking about. It's called The Journey, and I highly recommend it. And I'm not an interviewer who blows smoke. I'm not somebody who says, see it, it's fabulous. If it isn't fabulous, it is absolutely mind-bendingly fabulous.
Thank you very much.
And I love this movie, and I recommend it to everyone I know because it's a story. Sometimes you take a trip, and sometimes the trip takes you. What did Jimmy Carter have for advice to you? Do you remember?
Well, two things. One, I sat down with Jimmy Carter, and it was the first time I had met a president. It was early on in my journey, and so I used to write all these notes down because I thought that was important, that you needed to look professional. At the end of my journey, I didn't even go in with any notes at all and just trusted my instincts. But early on, I thought I better prepare. I'm talking to a president, so I wrote all these notes down. And then when I sat down with President Carter, there was 3 months of cold calling, and there was the press secretary and the Secret Service and all these people, and I sat down and I was so nervous. I looked at the president and he looked at me, and I looked at my notes and I looked back at the president, and I could not read my notes at all. And I was counting on my notes, and now all of a sudden I was in this uncomfortable, awkward moment, and I don't know what happened to me, but it just bubbled up from within, and I said, do you know any good jokes? That's how the conversation started. Everybody in the room's mouth just opened up like that was just totally inappropriate. President Carter sat there for a few minutes in this, again, uncomfortable silence, and then he said, you know what, I'm not a very good joke, I'm not a very good joke teller, but I'll tell you a funny story. He said, I was speaking to an audience in Osaka, Japan, and when I was there, I had a translator, and I decided that I would tell a joke. And so I got up, I told the joke, and then the translator translated, and everybody in the audience started laughing like super loudly. And he couldn't believe it because he had never gotten that response ever when he told the joke in the States. So at the end of his talk, he finishes and he's in the green room and he goes over towards the translator and he wants to ask the guy what happened. And the translator kind of keeps moving away from him throughout the night. And he finally corners the translator and he said, look, I've got to know, I told my joke, and how did you tell my joke? And the guy said, look, puts his head down, he says, I told the audience President Carter said a funny story. Everybody laughed. And when he said that to me, it was such a great moment because I realized that he was just like everybody else.
Exactly.
And that was one of the great transferences in that conversation, is that I just saw him as, one of the great lessons in the journey is that I realized that we're a lot more alike than we are different. And so that was a great moment just of connection to him.
Yeah.
And the thing that he really wanted to convey, I asked him what advice and counsel he would give to our generation, and he said to never ever underestimate the power of the individual to make a difference. Because it's always an individual that has the courage to stand and speak their possibility into the world, and that can change a person, a state, a nation, and a country.
And very much like you, he's walking his talk, because look what he does today in the world of volunteerism. He's amazing.
When he spoke I saw him at Emory University, and the president of Emory introduced President Carter. He said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the former president of the United States, Mr. Jimmy Carter, the only man who's ever used the presidency as a stepping stone to greater things.
That's wonderful. All of these, and I don't want to get away without talking about your book, because I have favorite words. One of my favorite words is grace. Another of my favorite words is wonder. I love the concept of wonder, living in wonder, being in wonder, seeking wonder. And of course, Eric's book is called Live in Wonder, Quests, Quotes, and Questions to Jumpstart Your Journey, something else I truly, truly recommend. I want to know if you feel the spirit here in Sun Valley.
I feel the spirit everywhere.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Sun Valley for me is a very magical place to be, and since it's your first time, I wonder what your impressions of Sun Valley are.
So it's breathtaking. I mean, the weather's been incredible, and these rolling hills and clean air. We talk about wonder. It's nice to be in nature. Nature is certainly a gateway to wonder, and being out here in Sun Valley certainly invokes that.
It does. We are a travel website, so I want some travel tips from you as well, because I don't know anybody who travels around more than you do. Do you get jet lag?
I do. I don't do any red eyes anymore for
Yeah.
that. I tend to.
There's the first rule.
I don't do
That's
that.
the
The
first bit of
rule,
advice.
No red eyes.
No red eyes.
Yeah, don't eat food in the airport. Bring your own. Lots of green juices before you get on the road. Lots of water.
Where do you head off to next?
I head to Los Angeles next.
Oh, prepare yourself. Energy in Los Angeles is tough energy.
You know, I enjoy Los Angeles. It's going to be fun.
But yeah, that's right. What am I talking about that for? I shouldn't be having you badmouth Los Angeles before you go there and chat to thousands and thousands of people. But do you feel when you travel different energies in different towns?
No, you know,
No?
I spent, I've been 4 years around the country. I've been to every state in the country, and I think people are people, and wherever I go seems to be the right place. So I don't mean that in a weird way. I just mean that New York's amazing because it's New York, and Idaho's amazing because it's Idaho, and California's amazing because it's California, and I tend to find the right people and get connected to the really cool. I feel like I'm in the good people business.
Oh, I didn't hear it as in a weird way. I heard it in a good way. Wherever I am supposed to be, that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. I love that. But the trip going home for you, I always like to know what it's like for people when they're headed home, because at Concierge Q, so many of our followers are travelers, and their favorite trip is home. So is that your favorite trip, when you know you're getting on the plane and you're headed home to your treehouse?
Well,
he does live in a treehouse. I swear, don't you?
I do. The thing for me, this is the first time actually, in total transparency, I've lived all over, and now I live in Maui, Hawaii, and I live up in the jungles past Hana, and I live with just an amazing community of sustainable farmers and off the grid and people who know how to build and create and plant food and feed people, and it is the most inspiring my life has ever been, and humbling, because I'm hanging out with just the most extraordinary people. And so this is the first time in my life that I can't wait to get home. I love being out, and I can't wait to get home.
You are a genuinely happy man, aren't you?
I am.
It shows all over the place. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you very much.
For sitting down with me, with us at the Q. We hope you'll come back and keep us abreast of all of your journeys. You'll come back.
I will indeed.
It's on tape. You have a promise.
I'll follow up and be committed.
You heard it. He'll be back. I'm Chantal here at Concierge Q Studios covering the Sun Valley Wellness Festival. Stay with us. Lots more headed your way. Thank you.
Thank you so much.